Thanks for believing in me, Tecna. Whoa.
Tecna, why did you transform?
Hey, hi, I'm back. Welcome back to whatever this is, me rambling. I am annoyed today because we are talking about Tecna. I'm not annoyed because I don't like her. In fact, I love Tecna. The show hates her ass so bad. And I know I've titled this video like Rainbow's least favorite wings, or like the most forgotten wings, or like something like that. Listen, I know that the argument that Roxy is the most forgotten wings, and I guess that is true. That is indeed correct. However, I am not going to talk about that. I will scream. I am making a whole separate thing on Roxy. A video, I mean, because I have so much shit to say about Roxy as well. However, Roxy is a separate case to Tecna because, listen, if you're part of the Wings fandom, I hate to be the one to tell you, but Roxy is not a Wings. The show did not want to give that to her, because we don't deserve nice things. But anyway, back to Tecna, the actual least favorite wings. You know what? I'm going to start this video. Well, I've started it. We're a bit in. Let me start where I think you will all know this main point. She was completely cut from Fate, the worst saga ever. I was trying to think of a good joke there. It's just bad. Like, the show's just bad. The show sucks. In some ways, I'm so glad Tecna wasn't in there because she didn't have to suffer through that shit. But it unfortunately, it does exist. I'm just saying she's not in it. And part of the reason she's not in it is in a line of things since, you know what, usually I give season 5 I give it a lot of flack, but it is like, so here's the thing. Season 1 through 3 is like golden era, and then you have season 4, which is like less good, more problems, but still fine. And season 5 is just bad, but like a beginning of the end bad. It's better than season 6, 7, and 8, but like, what a standard. I love my standards being in like a underwater trench. Pun. But like, I don't think Tecna's... Well, okay, the problems start in season 5, but it's not as bad. See, the thing is, the initial Winx Club, like the actual, like the real show, including season 4, like the good one, despite season 4 having problems, is that, like, here's the thing, the world of Winx, not the show, I'll get to that one, the magical universe in which Winx Club takes place, is an interesting blend of fantasy and sci-fi, which I don't like sci-fi usually. I don't really like a lot of basic sci-fi. I think a good example actually would be Star Wars. I know, I like, it's fine. It exists. To me, it just exists. But like, it's a little bit like, okay, this is fine. I don't really care for it. The reason I like the sci-fi in Winx so much is because it's integrated with magic and fantasy in a very unique way. And part of it is because the show, well, it first started airing in the early 2000s, which would mean the writing would have been at latest like 2000, but like around just before the 2000s, which is again, so like late 90s, which is like, if you take that era, you see that like a lot of what they put into Winx, very like fantasy version of like sci-fi even then was still fantasy. Like in Winx you have flying cars, you have these weird shapes for cell phones, you have weird shapes for the buildings, it's odd clothing, and like weird cutouts with, again, it's very symbolic of its time, and Tecna came as a result of that. In fact, her magic wings, listen, I know people, like real people, who really don't like her magic wings, and listen, I get it, it's weird, but I love it. It's so 2000s though. It's so early 2000s. Like the weird cone, because she kind of looks like a rocket, which is, again, you know, because space. and like the laser, like the like hard light laser shit. I love it. Again, it's also like, yeah, you've blended magic with technology, and what I actually think the world builders in the early versions of like the early Wings Club, like the good, they really knew what they were doing, because in a world where magic exists, technology will also have existed. Because this is why, like, stuff like Harry Potter and Fate the Wings Saga, again, I'll get to it, but give me a second. Like, it bothers me because, well, yes, if you have magic, you're gonna have magical solutions to problems we have, like, in the real world, because the way writing works is you interpret your real world experiences and you write into a fictional world, which still has a level of your agency in it. I'm not gonna go through that whole thing with you. I imagine you understand how fiction works and people's biases, and like you have fantasy problems to real issues, or like fantasy, like just life. You have fantasy versions, like they use magic in everyday life. However, that does not make technology not exist. In fact, it makes the conception of Wings Club in the early 2000s, like it makes the version that they came up with a magical universe, specifically Magic's. I'm thinking most of Magic's here, like Magic City. It makes it incredibly well thought out, because the magical universe is like is noticeably so much further ahead than the human realm that Bloom is from. They're so much further ahead than Earth in terms of like technology, because they had access to this other power, this other source of energy, this other magic makes their lives easier, therefore they've advanced further, kind of thing. Which is why Tecna makes, I love her in the first season. Listen, the Citadel dub, it's a little bit rough, but I grew up with that one. So I know people like 4Kids, and if you like Nick, that's a problem on you, and like I would seek to fix that. But like I know people grew up with 4Kids, and like it's fine. I personally don't vibe with it, but that's, I think, solely because I grew up with a certain dub that I used to call Rai English. Duh. But the scene of Tecna just like laughing her ass off at Bloom, because she's like, wow, your phone sucks, and she snaps it in half.
Let me have a look. I'm very good with electronic stuff.
What's so funny?
This is prehistoric technology.
Iconic. I love Tecna. I haven't even gotten, and okay, and I'm going through all of this like basic world building because Wings Club is founded, or not founded, it is built upon in this world that blends technology and fantasy magic. Like fairies are very fantasy coded, obviously. They're just very fantasy. And then you have the technology aspect to it. So to have a fairy of technology, to have a fairy of technology and a fairy of music, I think these are very unique power sets that or power sources or usages that really, they have some of the most interesting spells. Like, for as overdone as it is, even in the earlier seasons, but especially in the later seasons, Musa's soundwave spells are I don't know, they're really unique. I like them a lot. I would prefer if she had more varied spells in the later seasons, but I can't ask for that now, can I? Hopefully the reboot will do that. It will do her justice. It won't. No, it might. I'm cautiously optimistic. Let me talk about that some other time. But Tecna has a lot of technical expertise. Obviously, she works a lot in technology. In fact, in season 3, I believe it is, the barrier breaking spell, or I think there's one scene. I think it's one scene in season 2 where the spaceship is crashing, and Timmy is like, "Oh no, we're gonna die. There's no controls," and Tecna's like,
Meet your new main computer.
Iconic. Absolutely iconic. My queen. So why did I say all this? Why is there a preamble? And why did I bring up Fate in the beginning? Because Fate has no... I hope you can't hear that. You can. Because Fate has no technological aspects to the magical universe. And this is a problem that was started, I'm going to say, in season 5. I've decided it started there, and once you go through season 6, and especially season 7, they completely cut out all the tech aspects in the animated show. A lot of people talk about how weird it is in Fate that there's no technology, and it's true. There ain't shit. And it is stupid that they took it out. But the reason they did is because in the animated show, in the Nick era, they dialed down the technology so much. If you actually go and watch through, and I don't actually suggest going to watch through these seasons unless you're like, well, drunk, or you have like friends, you have friends that will watch the show with you and like shit on it, because girl, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to watch alone and watch it seriously. Your mind will glaze over, believe me. They've tried. But yeah, they do a lot to like not have technological aspects in the show, and it doesn't help that in seasons, I'll say season 6, season 5, I think the girls still have like personalities separate to each other. They're very stupid, but like, and very basic, and very like dialed down, and not real. They're not real either way. But like season 5, I would actually say they still have personalities. Like, I like a lot of Musa's lines. Again, like she's actually kind of funny. Like Misa is like, I don't know, I like her in season 5. She also gets returned to me. Unfortunately, it is in Cyranix in the ugly ass transformation. Tecna has nothing to do as usual. But like in season 6 and 7, like because season 6's main theme was fairy tales, and season 7 of animals. So you could argue that like, well, yeah, you're not gonna have technology like in those themes. I'd actually argue against that, but like, because here's the thing, you can inject technology into those two, because like, also what, there's also the question of like, what do you consider technology? I'm not going to go into that because it's a video idea all its own to talk about technology and magic in Winx Club, but like, basically, they could very easily put technology into those two themes. In fact, it's actually kind of odd that they didn't because of the world setup, and you wonder why that is. Winx Club became a very commercialized show, and yes, I know it always was, but it got a lot worse in the Nick era. Well, technically season 7 isn't in the Nick era, but it does have the remnants of it, so it's still kind of shit. Actually, it's more shit than season 6. And you see, in an effort to make the show more like appealing to a younger demographic, they took out a lot of the mature aspects. And oddly, one of those things was technology, which again, ironic considering that the later generations that they were pandering to would be more familiar with technology than anyone who grew up with it initially. Like, I still was, obviously, but I wasn't as familiar with technology. It's actually, if you actually give it like a minute of critical thinking, it was actually dumber than to take the technology out, but they did it to make it more fantasy. It's just fairies. It's just fantasy. That's it. The problem with that is you have Tecna, and you can't cut out one of the main members of the cast in the original show. So what they did is they stripped her of any agency, any plot lines, and any unique aspects to her magic. It's so bad. It's so terrible what they do with her. Like, oh, no, actually, it's terrible what they don't do with her, because she just doesn't get anything. It's like, oh, we've made this show less tech-heavy? Well, Tecna, do nothing then, because she truly doesn't do anything in season 6 and 7. I don't even think in 8 she does that much, but at least she does a little bit more. I don't like season 8 just on principle, because of, like, the whitewashing. That's a main thing. But also, it's ugly, and I don't like the show. At that point, I was so tired, and even now when I try and watch it, it's so boring. It just sucks. But I'm not going to get into. That's why I'm talking about mostly season 6 and 7, because this is where the problem. I think the main problem is like, yeah, it's like this is where I can show it to you the most, with my words. See, a good example of this is actually in season 7, Butterflix, the ugly transformation. Well, second ugliest. There's Cyranix. Oh, but like, Tecna doesn't get a unique outfit here, and you could argue, okay, here's the thing, she hasn't gotten a unique outfit in the Nick era, like, and beyond. Like, I know, it's still, I think Harmonix, it still worked, and Cyranix, much as I hate it, I think it's ugly, and in fact, I don't like the way she looks. Actually, no excuses for Cyranix, but Butterflix does it the best, because with Harmonix and Cyranix, you can still kind of gauge her power from the transformation. Not much, mind you. I actually think Harmonix and Cyranix don't do it that well, But okay. But with Butterflix, it's at its worst because it's that weird, ugly tutu dress shit, and then you have the crystalline wings, or whatever you want to call it. It's just they look like doll commercials, but like for cheap dolls. I don't know. I hate it. But like she became so much more uniform with like it looks like a uniform. They've all become like the same like hive mind, or not hive mind, but the same look. And Tecna was like in the earlier seasons was kind of like her signature thing was being different to the other girls. Her magic wings is like so noticeably different than the others in terms of theming. Like it's the only full body like suit. It's like a full body suit. Her Enchantix, though yes, you could argue it looks similar to the others, uses more geometric shapes. Her hair is blunt cut and like kind of sharp, tech stuff. And her wings, her wings also have that sharpness to it. I will say, depending on which one you consider like the canon one, like she either does or doesn't have that bottom part of the wings, and I think without it, it makes her stand out. And then in Believix, interesting case here where like, well, yes, again, it's kind of uniform, but her wings are a little bit smaller than everyone else's. Like she still has the bottom bits, but it's really thin. And again, she's still wearing more like a suit-ish kind of deal, like a bodysuit type deal. Like Tecna is characterized by being this like this again more sci-fi than the others, and Butterflix does this thing where it just makes it the same. There is like no difference between them. Like you can argue colors. Yes, they're colored differently, and none of them look good. I like Musa and Aisha's. Do I like Aisha's hairstyle? I do. I like Musa's a lot more though. I don't like what they did with Aisha either. I could talk on end about that. Anyway, back to Tecna. The one they hate. See, in this season also, they replaced a lot of the technology in Althea with animals, which again shows a lot where they're leaning into the fantasy and completely cut the sci-fi, and that's what leads into Fate. I'm not sure when Fate released, was it? I think it was during between the time of season 7 and 8, which would mean it was definitely around that time. It could be a bit earlier, but regardless, it's Fate is the result of the show going downhill. They wanted to, even as a show, Fate isn't a show outside of its context of it being an adaptation is still bad, but it's because they go down the very stereotypical, there's a magic school, we must fight things, I'm the main character. That's basically Bloom. That's basically just what the show is. It's nothing special because they took out, well, for a bunch of reasons, but they took out the sci-fi elements, which takes its the unique setting out of Wings Club as well. And that's kind of what makes me the most sad about this, is that the unique setting is gone, and therefore Tecna is gone. Fate was kind of their one chance to cut her out, and they did it because she doesn't fit in the world. She doesn't even fit in the world, or she didn't even fit in the world of the later seasons. The only reason she exists in seasons 5, 6, 7, 8, and... well, she exists in 9. That remains to be seen. The only reason she exists now is because this legacy about her. She's one of the 6 wings. And you can't really replace Tecna with Roxy because people would notice. And also, they don't like Roxy either. But Tecna kind of represents, the world building of the early Wings Club. And the show doesn't like that. That's why they hate her so bad, because she represents something that they don't want to write, or they can't write. Maybe they're just bad. But yeah, that's why they make it into stereotypical geek humor in seasons 5, 6, and 7. I think they do it in 8 also, because that's as far as they can write for technology. It's oh, she must be a geek. Oh, she must be a nerd. It's yes, she kind of is, but also. Not really. A lot of her arc in seasons, I'd say 2 and 3, not really. Actually, 1 as well, is her learning to empathize, but it's not really in a she's robotic kind of way. It's more in her, she's not properly processing people's emotions. She's not properly understanding what people are saying. She gets a bit annoyed to me because what's I think in season 3 where he tries to talk to her, and she's I've been surrounded with technology all day. I came here to get away from that, and then she walks away. And the thing is, it's like, this is kind of on Timmy. Let's not absolve him here. Listen, my guy, boy failure. He had no idea what to do. I love him as well. He's so fun. And also, he's like the only... There's so many goddamn men in the show. They really dare to be so much men. So many of them are pointless. But yeah, like the problem here on Tecna's end, like, yes, I think she's very valid in her feelings here, but she kind of failed to understand that, like, what's going on with Timmy there. Again, it's not her fault, but again, her whole arc is learning to empathize, and it culminates in the Enchantrix actually, where she's like so willing to give her life for an entire planet that isn't hers. All that's to say, she has a very fulfilling arc. I mean, like, it is her learning to empathize, but it's dealt with more maturely than it is in the later seasons, where it's just like, I know to talk to people, I'm a techno-introvert. It's so annoying when they do that. Because, well, yes, people who are into tech, who are into video games, which I'll get to that, but like, they usually are more reserved, but it's like, that's a very... like surface level way to deal with that. She already isn't one of the favorites. Like, that's Bloom, Stella, and Flora and Aisha to some degree. Although I know if Flora is labeled as a favorite a lot of the time, but is she though? she gets a lot of screen time sometimes. Well, she gets more than Musa or Tecna. But like, is that a good thing? She gets beat up a lot. And that's not one of my favorite things to happen to Flora, because it's her personality trait, apparently, to be a punching bag. But anyway, moving on. Tecna just gets written into the background, and like, she has lines. Like, she does have lines, I guess. But if you like, actually listen to or watch the show, I guess, if you want to watch and not just listen to it, a lot of her lines could be given to someone else, and none of the plot would change. In fact, they do a lot of stuff that's so out of character. Like in season 6, to earn Bloomix, her and Musa have to fight.
My music is just noise to you?
But again, it's so out of character for them. Well, the fight they have, it's so out of character, especially because, like, I don't know, again, lore things, but they've been together for a while. Like, the argument that they have is just like, my music is noise. You think my music is noise? Your music is noisy. Like, this kind of fight, it's so petty and childish for one thing. But also, for friends that long, this would have been a problem earlier on in the relationship. Like, earlier on in the friendship. Like, no. I just hate the writing for this. But yeah, it also comes back in season 6 when Digit gets replaced with Kara. Oh, I don't like Kara, and I don't like... Okay, Kara and Cherie, they have a little bit to do in the season. I suspect they gave them a bit more to do than the other pixies, because they knew they replaced them. And they were like, but how do we make them like them? Like, how do we make the audience like them? Let's have them actually do things. They don't even do that much, but at least they do things. I actually do have suspicions as to why these two specifically were replaced. A lot of people will cite the whole, like, Pop Pixie Digit gender swap, and I don't think that's the reason, because if they cared about lore, they wouldn't do half the shit they pull in the later seasons. What I actually think happened, Cherie is a bit... okay, for one thing, Cherie looks, quote-unquote, well, she does. She looks a lot more like Tecna. Like Musa, sorry. Freudian. I kind of want to have the, like, pixies have visual similarities to the assigned Wings Cup member. Kind of. I don't actually think a lot of them do anyway. Again, but it's surface level. And, like, if you, like, blow your eyes, you can see what I mean. Kara doesn't look like Tecna, but the reason they don't have a pixie look like Tecna, like, Digit didn't look like Tecna specifically, but she looked like a Techno Fairy, or a Techno Pixie. Any tech-related thing they wanted to cut out, I talked about that. And it's why Kara's so odd, because she's not tech-themed at all. She's, like, sweet-themed or whatever. I don't actually know what her powers are. I'll look it up. But, like, it's so odd to me that she isn't tech-themed for Tecna, which, like, yes, in the earlier seasons, season 2, when the pixies were actually useful and good and written well, they sort of exist as like, it's like a love at first sight kind of deal. That's actually how they explain it. It's like love at first sight, but it's like again, it's a bond. But their personalities are like they can be complementary or they can do like contrast stuff. And that's what they do with Flora, because they are meant to facilitate character growth, because you have like a character for them to then bounce off of, which is effectively like the pixies kind of could act like vessels for monologuing or like just voicing their feelings, but also they do have unique perspectives. Again, the example everyone cites, and it's the one I'm going to cite because it is the best example, is Flora and Chatter. Like Flora was a bit more reserved. Not entirely. She wasn't. I hate people putting her in the Fluttershy archetype. It pisses me off. I'm talking about a fictional girl, like TV show for like 12-year-old girls, and I don't care. Flora was a bit more reserved, but like Chatter was like very outgoing and like outspoken a lot of the time. I kind of out of pocket, but she needed someone like that to push her forward to then like speak her feelings to Hylia. It's actually like, it's very smart writing. Like yes, they are plot devices. Like no, they aren't plot devices. They're character devices for the main cast, but they do it well enough that like it doesn't feel invasive, because it is written. It feels invasive. They feel invasive in season 6, not because they're actually facilitating character growth, but because they're just like annoying bugs. They don't do shit for the characters. And that's kind of what Digit was for Tecna, except she wasn't a contrast to Tecna, she was sort of like a mirror to her. Like they bonded over their shared love of technology, because like Tecna has like very few people to do that with. You could argue Timmy, but like even he's a bit of a different ball game, especially because he's a whole different school. And like Tecna's growth facilitated by Digit is a bit more subtle, but it is still like, it's someone for her to like, again, back to the empathy thing, it's someone she can easily empathize with, because one, she's magically bonded, and two, it's like they have this one main shared interest. Them being similar, it makes as much sense as Flora and Chatter being different. It's like, again, it's exceptionally well written, actually, the more I think about it. I'm not scripting these, in case you haven't noticed. I'm like, as I think about them, I'm like, you know what, that is very smart. Maybe they didn't intend that, but it's still smart. And that's why I like Digit. Kara, I get them confused. They're dumb. I get them confused because they're both dumb. They're the same damn character, the Pixies. But like, Kara, she doesn't really do anything for Tecna. You could do that again. They don't do any character growth, so like anything that Kara could facilitate just isn't there. But again, she was given to Tecna to like downplay the technology aspect of the Wings Club, because they don't want that sci-fi shit in my fantasy show. How dare you add interesting world building into my fairy show? Even though they added it there first. But whatever. And like for Tecna to then be cut in Fate, I think I lost the plot a bit. She got cut because of, I mentioned before, the technology aspect being completely cut out of Fate as well. But also without Tecna, without the Pixies, without Digit, you don't have like a big world. Like the thing is, the world of Fate is remarkably small. Like they talk about countries, they talk about Solaria, they talk about all of this, and they only really use the school as a location. There's a few other ones, but like it's mostly just the school. It's a very small world, so it would make no sense to add the Pixies or any of the like technology stuff, because it's just like a fantasy school. And that's kind of this goes to my worry for the reboot, because the reboot is taking a lot of cues from Fate in terms of its design of the school. And I don't like that. So, I don't know if you've seen, I'll try and put a picture up here of the school. Althea, listen, it looks like a shopping center. You're trying to make it fantasy, but it just looks fake. But also, they've taken away the sci-fi. Like, here's the thing, Althea's the pink school, the real show, the real Althea. It wasn't specifically sci-fi like inspired, but you can definitely see sci-fi influence in it with some of the shapes they use, especially like the very, well, in the 3D model, it is very like low poly, because of the early 2000s, I guess. But like in that way, it actually elevates the design because it does have this like air of sci-fi in it. Like it's still a fantasy pink school building for like fairies, but because it isn't just like bog standard like European castle, like it's this like unique rounded shapes. It's this like smooth pink. It does look a little bit plastic, I will admit. I don't think they would use plastic to build a building. They would use some other fantasy element. But like the shapes of the doors, the furniture in the rooms, how the whole of like the food hall looks, the food hall, the way that like all of this has like, it's not sci-fi, but it's definitely like it has aspects of sci-fi inspiration in it, and that's what I like a lot about the designs in early Wings, is that like it blended those two really well. And it disappears later on, and it's disappearing in season 9, which makes me worried for Tecna. Girl, what are they doing to you? Also, petty hours. I don't like her outfit in the one teaser. I don't mind holographic, but why? To quote Lisa Fevron, why does she look like a Jojo Siwa? Why Jojo? Why Siwa-ing around? I don't want to Siwa this. Also, that's a very, again, it worries, makes me worry about the tech aspects of the show, because they went straight for like very gaudish hollow, and it's like, don't fuck up my girl. I like her hair. Don't fuck her up, please. I love her. But yeah, basically, I think I've gone through all my points. I say that like I don't wrote anything down. I could go, you know what? I'm not going to do this. But you know what? I could go through one of the seasons, like season 6 or 7, because I did talk about it quite a bit, and like go through things that make me see, that like I note down that like, oh, they've taken away the powers are non-existent. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like her unique power set of using technology is non-existent. That's my problem. That's my main issue, is that like they don't utilize it at all. Even if, like, well, Flora, okay, so Flora, Stella, Bloom, those three, and I can include Aisha here. Okay, at least those three get to use unique power sets. Well, not unique, but they use their power sets sometimes. They use their powers, like specific spells with their powers that are like directly related to the element or like the power source they assigned to. Aisha kind of does, I think. I really hope she does. Musa has no mythic spells and has like two Bloomic spells. Although I will say those two spells do make very good use of music and sound. I really do like Crystal Voice and Infinite Echo. But Tecna does not have anything like that, because Tecna does not deserve it. She gets, I think, some sort of like weird cube thing, but again, like those are just like shields or barriers. It's like they aren't specifically tech related. That's my like.
Watch this. I'll use a teletransport techno-magic. We did that to transfer the pet. Don't let it fool you. That's Gardenia Virtual Park.
You hid it in your favorite video game? Wow, what a great idea, Tecna!
They just really hate the tech aspect of Winx Club, and that is then like embodied by Tecna. The queen she is, honestly. She stands above all them bitches, and it's like, I still exist. You can hate me all you want, but you can't erase me, except when it's Fate the Wind Saga and they've erased me. Like, they can only erase Tecna when they like reboot the series, and then everyone still hated it. Like, they want her out so bad. I actually did these drawings a while ago, like a long while ago, and there are stuff I would change, but ultimately I was looking at them, obviously, before I recorded this, and I really like them, because I remember when I was doing this, I wanted to sort of do headcanon stuff of like stuff I changed about the later seasons, stuff I changed about the earlier seasons. I actually think I didn't talk about it, but like as much. Tecna does have this like a little bit of like autism like coding to her, especially in season 1, because I recently rewatched season 1, and like whether or not they did that on purpose, it's like that's really, I like that. Like Winx Club has always been like they had like I think they, not always, that's a very wrong thing to say, but they've been decently inclusive, better than most adult shows. and they were in the early 2000s. Actually, Avatar was like that. A lot of early 2000 shows, well, actually they had their problems. I'm not going to romanticize that shit. But they still, like, a lot of the early cartoons did have a lot of, like good rep. And I think Winx, after season 1, had, like, good rep. Actually, in season 1, it's fine. It's just there's a few things that I would like to forget. But yeah, with Tecna, you could see I made her a little bit more, like, gender ambiguous. I actually think Tecna would use, like, she, they pronouns, like, not for any, like, again, it's not really because of, like, Tecna wouldn't want to assign, like, wouldn't want to identify as a woman. It's more of, like, in my head brain, it's like, I don't think Zenith, like, the world she's from, like, there's interesting world building that they could do. Like, I don't think the conception of gender is the same everywhere. In fact, it very much would not be. In a universe, it would be completely different. And, like, I don't really think I think Tecna would go by she, they, mostly because of, like, because, like, it doesn't make sense, like, because, again, it's just not something she's conceptualized as, like, being specifically, like, this idea of woman. In fact, I don't think Magic's, like the world they're on in Althea would even subscribe to, like, the rigid gender binary we have, but I mean, like, it would take so much work for the world building to just have that. This is just me talking about how much I like this headcanon. Also, I changed her race. Irrelevant, honestly. Like, I just wanted to. Also, because I struggle to draw really pale people. So I just made her my race. Which I'm not going to tell you. You can guess. Also gave her a few scars. That's something I would change, is, like, make them a bit, like, rougher. But also, like, maybe change the coloring a bit, because I think it looks a little bit weird. And maybe make them a bit bigger, because, like, you know, she's cute. Also, I gave her glasses. I actually gave her Darcy's glasses, because I think it would should slay, actually, a little bit. But also, in her, I didn't talk about this either, because this video's long enough, at least for my standards. But, like, they also do this weird thing in the later seasons where they really feminize both, like, Tecna, Aisha, and Yusa get a lot of, like, actually, even I would argue Stella and Flora and Bloom. Actually, all of them. Yeah, I just named all of them. Do you know what the Winx Club are? I just named all of them. I do think there was a little bit of, like, they did a lot of, like, making them very feminine. And with Tecna, they lengthened her hair. Like, we wouldn't notice. You keep doing that. And it's fine that she has longer hairstyles because her hair is still short. But, like, they don't do anything, like, I just find it weird that like, with more problems with the show, that the more time goes on. And, yeah, you'll see I gave her a bit more of, like a shorter hair. Actually, in the time lapse, I think in the earlier part, you could see that I had it a bit longer in her casual outfit, and I made it shorter, and I really like it. Also, I've made it so that her roots are brown and she dyes her hair pink, because it's a statement. I think Tecna would want to make a statement. Even in the earlier season. Well, maybe. And then, yeah, her transformation. I was gonna give it a name, but, like, I've had so many ideas for what this could be. What I think it is, because I want to do this for all the Winx, is that it's like, it's somewhere between Magic Winx and Believix. Or, okay, in my mind, it's a replacement for Believix, because I have problems with Believix, but it's like, it's not as strong as Enchantix, but it's not as weak, quote unquote, just on power scaling wise, than their Magic Winx form, because in my mind, they'd have to work up to, like, having power in season 4. It's like, this was supposed to be like a season 4 thing, where it's like, I actually think it would be interesting to have them be nerfed in the Earth world, basically, like on Earth, because no one believes in them, so they have to use other power source. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this if you've watched through it. Comment if you have any comments on what I've said, if you agree or disagree. I should be interested if you disagree, because I've been sitting with this thought for a while, and if you have any suggestions about my drawing, please feel free to leave them behind as well, and leave a like. Anyway, that's been me. I hope I don't make this length of video again for a while.
And I hate being wrong.